Welcome to Category Visionaries, the show dedicated to exploring exciting visions for the future from the founders who are on the front lines building it. In each episode, we'll speak with a visionary founder who's building a new category or reimagining an existing one. We'll learn about the problem they solve, how their technology works, and unpack their vision for the future. I'm your host, Brett Stapper, CEO of Frontlines Media. Now let's dive right into today's episode. Hey everyone, and welcome back to Category Visionaries. Today we're speaking with Matt Einig, CEO and founder of Rencore, a Microsoft 365 governance platform that's raised $15 million in funding. Matt, how are you?
I'm doing fine. Thank you very much for having me.
Super excited to have you here. And I think it's going to be an interesting one because I know you have a very interesting story that's different from a lot of the other startups that we have on. So let's go ahead and take us back to the early days and the founding of the company.
Well, yeah, so we are not the youngest or freshest startup anymore, if you want. We still consider ourselves a startup, but actually we founded the company in 2013, so almost 12 years ago, which has been quite a ride, I can tell you. Originally, we did something totally different than we do now. So my co-founder and I, we were in the consulting business, did IT consulting, business consulting, and so on, had a need ourselves. We were implementing intranets on the Microsoft technology for larger enterprises, and then realized, okay, in order to deliver higher quality projects and better projects for our customers, we need some tool that helps us in that work. So we built a static code analysis tool originally for Microsoft technology. And then basically, suddenly customers came to us and asked us, hey, can we buy this? And we figured, hey, why not? Let's make a product out of it and see what happened. So there was not really the plan like we have this great idea and then we get some funding and then to the moon. And it was more coincidental. And we, more or less thought, okay, let's make a little bit money on the side to our day jobs.
What year did you make that decision to switch from a bootstrapped business to a venture-backed business?
Yeah, we grew the business with that initial product for a couple of years, totally out of our own cash flow. We were surprisingly successful if I think back to it now. Yeah, we're close quite significant large enterprise customers all over the world, also from within Germany, up almost 40% of our revenue in the US. But then everything changed a little bit. The market has changed and we were focusing on a very proprietary technology from Microsoft that got replaced by standard web technology. So basically we realized, okay, this is not going anywhere where we want to go. This is stagnating business. This is not going to grow, but we somehow learned a lot of lessons while growing it in bootstrap mode and wanted to do more. So eventually we used, at the time we had about almost 500 enterprise customers worldwide. With that old business, we basically decided, okay, let's use this connection that we have, this customer base that we have, and figure out a new problem. So we basically interviewed almost over 300 customers, I believe, at the end over the course of 2 years, and basically asked them, okay, now you move to the cloud, tell us where it hurts. And they kept telling us, and eventually we discovered, okay, there's a new topic that we want to build a product on, which is addressing a much, much bigger market than anything that we have done before. So where there is an actual potential to build a really big and successful company. So we started to build that product, prototyped it, tested it with customers for governing Microsoft 365 at the time. And then the pandemic hit. And eventually, every organization had to find a way to collaborate with a remote workforce. So it was a massive accelerator for organizations to go to the cloud and eventually a massive opportunity for us to actually take advantage of this changed way of working. And so when we launched our product pretty much exactly 4 years ago, we had initial traction, grew relatively quickly, and then realized, okay, in order to take advantage of that momentum and of that opportunity that is out there, we cannot do that out of our own cash flow anymore. We need to invest more than we currently can make in order to not miss out on the opportunity. So that was what eventually led to making the decision that we raise our first venture-backed round.
I feel like there's generally, two main camps in the world of startups. There's the bootstrap crowd and the venture-backed crowd. And
they don't always seem eye to eye. Some of them seem like it's almost a religion for them, which camp that they're in. For you, were you very much bought into like the bootstrap religion and switching, felt crazy, or did it not feel that way for you?
So yeah, I was very much into the bootstrap mode, I have to say. So really keeping the money together, don't living too wild and too big, and rather be careful. And yeah, when we switched to venture-backed mode, we didn't change our attitude that much. Of course, invested more and we suddenly burned money, had negative cash flow, but we tried to stay realistic, I would say, not going too wild with what we're doing and not risking too much. And yeah, I think that helped us maybe in the transition also, that we're not suddenly have so much money on the bank and then think like, okay, we own the world, but rather take a little bit more cautious approach that served us very well. And yeah, fueled our growth and continues to fuel our growth, and also gave us the opportunity now in the last 2 years, maybe when economy went down, when wars broke out, energy crisis and all these kind of things. And as we're selling mostly to enterprise customers, they all kept the money together, in particular here in Europe, that we were not at such a risk that we suddenly run out of money because we are spending significantly more than we earn, but rather could take the long game there. So I think for us, at least, I feel we got a good middle ground here to use that money to take advantage of the opportunity, but not going too wild and then suddenly suffer the consequences.
Let's talk about market category. So in the intro, I said Microsoft 365 governance platform. Is that the market category?
Yeah, you can say Microsoft 365 governance platform. Actually, this goes a little bit broader. So the category is rather cloud and AI governance. At the moment, we focus at the Microsoft ecosystem. So this is Microsoft 365 in regards of collaboration tooling, Power Platform in regards of no-code, low-code tooling, and then everything around AI and Copilot on the Azure stack. So Copilot, Copilot Studio, Azure AI Foundry. And the problem that we're addressing is basically everywhere the same. It is basically people create stuff, let it be in M365, teams, sites, files, in Power Platform, maybe flows, apps, BI reports or whatever, or in AI, they create agents or applications with LLMs in the background. And everywhere where somebody creates something, shares something, there is data involved that people gain access. So it's a security topic. There is costs involved that somebody needs to pay for the usage or the licenses of the usage required for the usage. And then there's, of course, the lifecycle of the resource itself. So at the beginning, maybe only a limited amount of people have access. Throughout the lifecycle, that is changing, and are people cleaning it up again when it's no longer needed? So fighting sprawl in those environments and so on. So the use cases are basically generic, but we are focusing on different areas of technologies that we support in our product.
This show is brought to you by Frontlines Media, a podcast production studio that helps B2B founders launch, manage, and grow their own podcast. Now, if you're a founder, you may be thinking, I don't have time to host a podcast. I've got a company to build. Well, that's exactly what we built our service to do. You show up and host, and we handle literally everything else. To set up a call to discuss launching your own podcast, visit frontlines.io/podcast. Now, back to today's episode.
What about the marketing strategy? If you kind of think back or take a step back, how do you approach marketing? What's the marketing philosophy?
So as we have been around quite a while, I think we have a little bit of, I would say, advantage in a sense that with our old product, that the legacy product, basically the code analysis tool, at that time, we established kind of a brand in that ecosystem, in that Microsoft ecosystem that was connected to quality, to security, to performance, because we were a tool that helped with building better software, basically, and checking for these kind of things. So we built up a lot of content. So throughout the last 12 years, we always wrote a lot of content and have also a lot of credibility in that area. And we leveraged that also pivoted to the new area. So we invest a lot in content in order to be considered as thought leaders in the areas where we are dealing with, contribute basically to that community, to that ecosystem, and be visible so that whenever a potential buyer is actually ready to look for a solution, that we come to mind and we are not somebody that needs to be found, but rather are already top of mind when the problem arises for the potential buyer.
What are you doing to build thought leadership? I think every founder listening in wants to be a thought leader. Every startup wants to build thought leadership. How do you do it?
So when I started at the time, that was not really a choice like I want to be a thought leader. At the time when I started with my company, I was extremely active in that Microsoft ecosystem community and was giving speeches at conferences, keynotes, technical presentations in user groups all over the world, quite heavily actually, about 30, 40 events per year. So I was traveling a lot and was speaking everywhere. And that gained me at some point something like, this is an award that Microsoft gives out. It's called an MVP award. So the most valuable professional or most valued professional by Microsoft. And you can think of it, like a marketing title for Microsoft, where Microsoft awards that to individuals who are contributing a lot to the Microsoft brand. But that gives you a lot of visibility yourself in that community. And so I leveraged that and got this award 10 years in a row. And that already built this kind of visibility in that market that we are addressing, and also, the credibility that you need in order to be considered as a thought leader. And then on that, I built a lot up. So I created a lot of content, a lot of blog posts, presentations, webinars, and of course also on LinkedIn posts and so on, and bringing up the topic, sharing the learnings that you have, sharing your thoughts and opinions about that. And then it's eventually only all about consistency. You just need to keep on doing it. And then step by step, you grow your visibility and your amount of followers, and then people start interacting with you. And if I am a thought leader or not, but I think I'm doing quite well in visibility and leveraging that for our company.
I mean, you have 23,000 followers, so you must be doing something right to attract that audience. What have been your most successful types of content that you've personally created?
I think the most successful content in general is where in the past very technical topics. So very specific things where I really used my expertise, where I did maybe a webinar, then I condensed it down to a white paper or a blog post or so on. And then I used that over and over again as evergreen content, and somehow positioned myself also for a specific technical topic. I think nowadays this is a little bit harder because everything is moving at a much faster pace, in particular in AI. If you look around what's going on there, the thought leaders are struggling to keep up themselves with what's going on at the moment at that speed. And new people pop up all the time. I think this approach that worked for me is maybe not as easy anymore. If you really want to do it, then you really, really have to put a lot of effort in it, I believe, and not just generate LinkedIn posts with ChatGPT, but really put in a lot of thought what you really want to express and where you really want to position an opinion about.
What about building out your marketing team? What's your experience been like there? And what have you learned about building and scaling marketing teams?
So my marketing leader has been working with me for almost 10 years now. So he has been building with me the team. And I think when I think back throughout the time, so our marketing team also was at a point in time bigger than it is now. And I think what has changed there is at some point a while ago, we considered we need very specific skills and roles for a specific task. So a social media manager or an event manager or very specific roles. And now I think what has changed a little bit also with the help of AI and all these things that you have that support you in your marketing activities, that you need more generalists that can do a lot of things and have also sufficient technological background and interest to use these kind of tools to accelerate their work, to get better, quicker output. instead of having very specialized people that don't only do a single thing. And I think this is also what's the general changing in organizations. At the moment, the term vibe marketing is somehow evolving. I think we are not there yet. But in general, I think you can achieve much, much more with less resources nowadays than you could maybe even 2 years ago.
This show is brought to you by the Global Talent Co., a marketing leader's best friend in these times of budget cuts and efficient growth. We help marketing leaders find, hire, vet, and manage amazing marketing talent for 50 to 70% less than their US and European counterparts. To book a free consultation, visit globaltalent.co.
What about market analysts when it comes to analyst firms like Gartner? What's your approach with them?
So we are a Gartner customer since about 2 years. I would say it took us a long time to make the decision because, of course, not cheap. Obviously, that's one of the challenges. And then in order to really get something out of a collaboration with Gartner or Forrester or whoever else you want to work with, you really have to take it serious that you invest time in it. It's not like, okay, you're buying a Gartner subscription and then half a year later, you're named in a Gartner quadrant. That's not working. You really have to put a lot of effort in it. On the one hand, in order to educate the Gartner analysts about your product, your market, whatever you want to achieve. So you have to do a lot of vendor briefings and always keep them updated. So whenever you're releasing something new, try to get a new vendor briefing and so on, so that eventually they realize what you're doing, understand what you're doing, and then incorporate you in any kind of analyst reports that they are creating. So that's the one part of it. And from that, traction comes, then people find you, organizations find you who talk to those Gartner analysts and tell them their challenges. And then they have you top of mind and propose, okay, maybe you need to look into that. But I think one part of that is also in order to be successful with such an analyst firm like Gartner, you cannot be alone on the market. So there needs to be some kind of market or a market that is forming. You need some kind of competition on the market that helps you to justify that you are there. Otherwise, Gartner analysts will not actually invest much time in that topic when there is not really an interest on the market and also competition that allows them to compare, okay, what approach are those taking and what is the approach of the others and so on. So that's the one part. That's basically leveraging Gartner to position yourself for your potential buyers. And the other part is what you can take out of Gartner in order to help you to grow your business, to make your business better. And I have to admit, I would say in the first year, we didn't really make as much use of it that we should. And also, I think because I didn't get myself involved enough, I was too busy with other things. And that eventually resulted in a waste of money, if you want. We have changed that up a little bit. And now we are leveraging Gartner also to spar with them about topics like, I don't know, topics like our own go-to-market strategy. Is that sound? Does that make sense? What advice do they give us? Our positioning on the market, maybe in general, okay, we are trying something new out, or we are addressing now a different kind of region. Okay, how can we position ourselves there? And they have a lot of experts there that can tell you something, or pricing and packaging, or building up your sales organization and things like that. So you can use them as coaches if you want. You can also throw, I don't know, your customer pitch deck to them and then they review it for the target audience and give you feedback, things like that. And I think this is something that can be really powerful. So you can really use them as kind of consultants, but it really requires you to take also advantage of that and don't forget about it. So they are not coming to you and tell you, okay, do you need some advice? This is rather a pull principle. And if you don't use it, then you're wasting your money and don't get the ROI out of it.
When you reflect on your journey bringing this technology to market, what would you say has been the most important decision that you've ever made? And how did you make that decision? Take us back behind the scenes.
That's a good question. I could tell you which decisions were wrong, what I would do differently, I guess. So when we made the decision to pivot from our old product to the new product, we set ourselves some principles. What do we actually want to do? So typical things like, okay, we want to do a SaaS. It needs to be industry agnostic. It needs to be technology agnostic. It needs to be super sticky, super easy to use. And so we wrote down these principles for us in order to make ourselves accountable that we are not drifting off in some kind of technological niche or that we're not building something that actually no one needs. So we wanted to make it measurable and so on. So, and all of that led eventually to us building a very generic, scalable platform that actually was not built for that specific use case that we initially started, which was Microsoft 365 collaboration governance. So the platform actually doesn't care at all what kind of data it's gathering and what you're governing with it. That choice at the time to build something generic instead of building something very specific actually proved to be an extremely good decision nowadays, because it allows us now to very quickly adapt to changes in the market and build something new by just integrating a new technology, and then everything else automatically falls into place. So eventually we have built a platform that is gathering data in a centralized inventory, and then whatever you build on top, your governance policies, your automations, your reports, your dashboards, your access reviews, and so on, what you can do with our platform, all of that is now for us just content on our platform. So that has the advantage that as soon as we get the data in, then anyone basically in the organization, not a developer, can build out the use cases or the business cases for the customers with that data. And that a massive positive impact on the speed, how we can develop and how we can also remain competitive to other market players.
What about fundraising? So as you've made the shift from bootstrap to the venture world, what are some of the lessons that you've learned?
I would say one of the lessons that I learned when I also talked to other founders, that because we have that history with, 7 years or almost 8 years of running a business, a bootstrap business, I would say we were above average in our maturity, how our organization was structured. So we had the processes in place. We had the bookkeeping, the planning, the strategy, and all these kind of things were already in place. And that was very advantageous for us when we did our first venture round, because we were not like typical startups did such rounds, but rather a step ahead in the quality and how we could deliver. And then I guess I'm a little bit that stereotype of a German that you could imagine. So I'm trying to be very structured and prepared. So before I started my fundraising, I basically had everything in place. I had the complete deal room ready with any contract that we have ever signed, any financial statement that we ever had, and so on. Everything was prepared, ready to go before I even started fundraising. And that allowed me then in the fundraising process to very quickly deliver to any kind of demand an investor had. And that built up trust, and that made it, I would say, surprisingly easy for us to raise those rounds. So I think the first round we raised in 3 months. I think the second round, the 8 million round, we raised in about 4 months. So that was, I would say, at least for German standards, relatively quick. And I think this all comes all down to good preparation at the end.
Final question for you. Let's zoom out 3 to 5 years into the future. What's the big picture vision look like here?
So as I told you, we are building a governance platform. Although we are currently in the Microsoft ecosystem, the platform itself is technology agnostic. So the long-term vision, what we want to be is actually a cloud governance platform. So a single tool that helps organizations, in particular large enterprises, to govern all their cloud services that they are using in their organization, or the majority of the cloud services that are very critical. So not just collaboration tools, not just no-code, low-code tools. There could also be, DevOps tools, infrastructure, CRM, HR, and whatever in between. So that's the long-term vision where we want to go. And that builds also a kind of a much bigger growth potential for us. Although we believe that alone in the Microsoft world that we are at, we are already capable of growing to a really big and successful company, but it opens up way more possibilities for us. And it helped us also to align that we are building something that is not blocking us to expand even further and build a much broader solution at the end.
Amazing. I love the vision and I really love this conversation. It's always refreshing to hear different startup paths. I think it's good for the audience to know that there's more than one way to build an amazing company like you've built. So I really appreciate you taking the time, especially given that it's late at night in Germany. Appreciate it, Ed.
Thank you very much, Brett. Thanks for having me.
This episode of Category Visionaries is brought to you by Frontlines Media, Silicon Valley's leading podcast production studio. If you're a B2B founder looking for help launching and growing your own podcast, visit frontlines.io/podcast. And for the latest episode, search for Category Visionaries on your podcast platform of choice. Thanks for listening, and we'll catch you on the next episode.